Alright, back again today, YouTube. We're going to work on our power steering flush today. So I've removed this cowling, and of course we've got our power steering reservoir. So we're going to get a little baster from Walmart, and we're going to suck all that out of there. And then we're going to come over here, show you where we're going to pull apart. If we look down inside, we can see that if you trace it here, this is your AC line, right? There's our high. And then just below that, we have our power steering line that comes along, right? And we've got some connections in here. And if you can see, there's a second connection that's kind of used down. We're going to undo that second connection down there, and we're going to put a big catch can at the bottom, and that's where we're going to do our active draining out of the system. One thing I forgot to mention when I was filming this is definitely put your GX up on jack stands so that your front tires are free to turn. That will make the bleeding process much easier. Alright, so I started the draining process. So I was able to get to the hose from underneath. There we go. So I've disconnected these two hoses. I was able to get to it from underneath. I actually have a long pair of pliers that I use to reach up in there, undo the clamp, push the clamp up high, and then actually use the pliers to just push the hose up and off. So now they're both just draining into this large catch pan. And now we'll start moving the steering, start pumping it up. Alright, so update, just to tighten it up a little bit, I just stuck that catch can a little higher so I don't get a lot of splashing. So it's right up underneath where it's coming out. So I'm catching a good bit of fluid that's coming out. So I'm just turning the steering wheel lock to lock, and I'm just filling it up. I will tell you that my baster that I was going to suck this out with didn't really fit, but to be honest, like a lock to lock once or twice empties this thing anyways. So you're going to drain it down really quick. So I do a lock to lock, like left, right, left. That pretty much drains it, and then I refill it. Same thing again. 1, 2, 3, refill it. So I'm just going until it's clear. Okay, so I crawled back under there and reconnected our hose. Here's another shot of the pliers I'm using. Very handy to reach up in there and get that clamp, but you could do it with a regular pair of pliers. Reconnected the hose. I've done about 2 quarts that I've put through the system, and of course I'm using, same as the transmission, I'm using the Valvoline Maxlife ATF, which is what this takes. It takes ATF, not power steering fluid. So now that I've filled it up and reconnected it, I'm going to turn it lock to lock until I don't hear any more bubbling to bleed it out. And once I've got that and filled up, then I'll start it and watch. We should see air and whatnot coming out, and be able to finish bleeding it out. And then we'll check it from there. Okay, so I just ran it and turned it off. So quick recap, after I reconnected it and filled it right to the top of the reservoir, before I turned it on, I did several lock to locks with the motor off, but everything connected to bleed out the system. Once I did that, it basically almost drained the reservoir again, bleeding the system, motor off. But once I did that, that was basically what I really needed to be able to get all the air out. Once I started it up, I heard it whine for just a second as I worked some air out, but I didn't need to add really any more, although I kept an eye on it. But it didn't immediately drain it down. So I let it run for a minute, and so now we're going to check it again. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can get you a shot of it's underneath. So there's the U that it disconnected. The fluid actually comes out of the metal pipe, so it kind of comes up and then spills down. So it's good to have a catch can that can handle that. But that's what's going to come out. If you wanted to hook a hose up to that and route it upside down, I suppose you could, but I just disconnected it and I'm catching it in the can and it works just fine. So now I'm going to reconnect that for the second time, and we'll manually bleed it, fill it up, and then we'll start up the pump and bleed it again and check it again. And there we are back together. See how the hose hooks together. That pair of pliers I showed you is absolutely the right tool for the job. It's a little bit of splash around, but you know, easily cleaned up, and it doesn't need a little rust proofing. And that's it, we're done. I did it twice. I used about 5 quarts. I don't think you need to use that much if you don't want to. Just what I ended up using. So there's 4 to a bottle, so I had already bought 2 just in case. So I did a drain and kind of pump out and refill. Did that twice, and now we've got really good looking red fluid. Top this guy off, wipe it down. I also would recommend put some paper towels all around here when you're doing it. I had some bubble ups that kind of made a mess. If I'd had some paper towels all around here to catch it, that would have made it easier. But that was it. You know, I think trying to suck the fluid out of here, there's not a lot in there. You're just kind of wasting your time. Just go ahead and start disconnect that hose that I showed you at the bottom. Start pumping it out, refilling it. Basically, you know, lock to lock 3 times, refill, lock to lock 3 times, refill. You're going to do that a lot until you get through with, you know, 2-ish quarts. Then put it back together, lock to lock again several times to bleed it out without starting the car. Make sure you refill it, then start the car. Didn't really need to add much at that point. Let it bleed out. Then I did it all over again, twice. And now we've got nice clear fluid. Pump sounds great, and we're good to go.